You famously avoided, during the tech boom, investing in technology companies. Curious about what you're like as a user of technology. You play bridge online.
Yeah, one of the trick questions that Bill Gates and I use sometimes when we're addressing audiences, he'll say, excluding email, which one of us spends more time on the computer? And the answer is I spend more time on the computer than Bill does, leaving out email, because I spend at least 12 hours a week probably just playing bridge on the computer, and I do all kinds of other things too.
Like what? I mean, you get news that way?
I get a lot of news that way. I look up all kinds of things that I used to have to spend a week in right away to get. I mean, it's so useful in so many ways. I mean, if I'm writing the annual report, there'll be 20 things I'll want to check, that I just go to the computer and check them out. But I like going to YouTube, and I'll go there and I'll listen to one song, and then I'll see all these suggestions on the other side, and it's an hour later, and I'm still listening to suggested songs or something.
All right, so you're on YouTube. What are you watching on there?
Well, I watch a lot of things. I mean, sometimes people tell me there's something kind of interesting to watch, so if there's political gaffes or something. But if I go there, I may go there to listen to Frank Sinatra sing My Way, and there'll be about 8 different versions of it probably, and I'll click on that, but then I'll see, 8 other things on the side, and Sinatra doing something else or whatever. And an hour, 2 hours will go by, and I'm having the time of my life. I like to see Tina Fey do Sarah Palin too. I mean, I'll go and type that in. So YouTube should be charging me a lot of money.
So do you have an iPod?
I do not have an iPod. No.
An iPad?
I do not have an iPad. No. I am slowly entering the 20th century, Will. Don't push me now.
As I said before, I know you have a cell phone.
Well, yeah, Alexander Graham Bell gave me one of his early ones.
Do you ever read books online? Do you use a Kindle or a reading device?
I read things. I read a lot online, but I would prefer to have a book in my hands, and I prefer to have a newspaper in my hands. On the other hand, I go to newspapers online all the time to read them, but if you just gave me a choice, I would still rather have it in my hand. You'll come out in 10 years and you'll be visiting me, and I'll be the last guy in the world reading a real newspaper with a landline phone next to me, and then you'll be interviewing me and say, what was it like back then?
What about social media?
No, I'm not into that, no.
Have you ever been on Facebook?
No.
And you're not...
I've had some impersonators on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Twitter?
I haven't done that. A fellow from Clark, Nebraska is co-founder of that, I believe, but it hasn't gotten to Omaha yet.
What is it you're spending your time doing that you love these days?
I love running Berkshire, to tell you the truth. But I love playing bridge, which I do. But I love riding out here on a private plane rather than commercial plane. So I'm willing to spend $1.5 million a year, whatever it may be, on a private plane. But I wouldn't spend it just to spend it. I mean, if it wasn't helping my life, I would have no interest in it. I have never denied myself anything, though, or I don't think I've denied my family anything.
What are you passionate about now that you weren't when you were younger?
Well, that's a good question. I enjoy teaching a lot, but I did some of that when I was younger. But now it's easier to get an audience now. I'll put it that way. I will have 48 schools, university, colleges, come out in this next semester, and I really enjoy. I stand on my feet for a few hours, and I have lunch with them. We get pictures. I mean, it's the whole day. And at the end of the day, I feel good.
When you look at this generation of young people, they face a different world. They face a very different set of economic circumstances than previous generations did. Does the same advice still hold true for them?
Sure.
It does. When they get out of college and they have college debt, they have low starting salaries and high housing costs. Isn't the economic deck stacked against them in a way that was different from previous generations?
I don't notice anyone wanting to trade places with anybody from 100 years ago or 50 years ago. No, I mean, I was born in 1930. The Depression was coming along and all that, but so what? I mean, this is the best time in the world to be born, and your children and grandchildren are going to live a much better life than you've lived. And who could dream of the things that have happened? You mentioned the iPad and all these things. We had no idea that was coming along 20 years ago. The idea I could sit there and play bridge with my sister in Carmel, California, on 10 seconds notice, that's a lot of fun. It used to be fun to play in person, but it was a lot of effort to get together. So the world gets better over time.
Do you think if you were starting out in 2010, starting to build your fortune, starting to build Berkshire, you could do it again?
Yeah, I think so. I think I would be going into a better world than I was going into in 1930. I would have more going for me, and so would everybody else too. But no, I think you're very lucky if you're being born in 2010, or if you're a student now. You've got a very, very bright future.
Can you imagine a time when you're not spending almost all your time running Berkshire?
Well, I'll be 6 feet under it. And even then, who knows what I'll be doing? I mean, I'll be thinking outside the box, we'll put it that way.
One of the things that happened in the aftermath of the financial crisis was that many individuals looked at their own financial houses and wanted to get them put in order. What's your best advice for somebody looking at their personal financial picture and wanting to put their house in order?
Well, you never want to owe money you can't pay. I'm basically against debt. I mean, I think the average individual will live a lot happier life if they avoid. They certainly ought to avoid credit card debt. I mean, there's no reason in the world to pay 18% for money. I can't make money paying 18% for money. So why should people up and down the street, do that? So avoid debt. If you have savings, and it's a good idea to have them if you can have, just buy index funds and just buy them every month, and don't listen to financial advisors like me. Don't read financial pages. I mean, you don't need to do it. I mean, if you buy a farm, you don't get a weather forecast every morning. You don't get a quote on the farm every morning. You look at the farm itself. You say, is this farm going to produce so many bushels an acre of corn or soybeans, and is that satisfactory in relation to what I pay? If you buy a piece of American industry and you get a cross section, you're going to do well over 10 or 20 or 30 years. But you're not going to do it if you try and dance in and out every day. The Dow Jones average started the 20th century at 66. It ended at 11,400. You'd say, how could you lose money during a period like that? A lot of people did, because they tried to dance in and out. But American business has done fine for investors over a long period of time, just like American farms have done fine for people. American apartment houses have done well for people over a long period of time. You can't dance in and out of them.
You have given a lot of fabulous advice, but what's the best advice that you've ever received?
Well, I received it in a variety of forms, particularly from my father when I was very young. But I mean, he basically, I think, taught me how to live. Not that I did it perfectly or anything like that, but I mean, he was giving me lessons, but he wasn't doing it by preaching to me. He was doing it by example. But basically, the biggest lesson, in a sense, I got is the power of unconditional love. I mean, I think there is no power on earth like unconditional love, and I think that if you offer that to your child, I mean, you're 90% of the way home, and there may be days when you don't feel like it. It's not uncritical love. That's a different animal. But to know you always can come back, I mean, that is huge in life. That takes you a long, long way. And I would say that every parent out there that can extend that to their child at a very young age, it's going to make for a better human being.
And you felt like you got that kind of unconditional love from your dad?
I absolutely did, yeah.
That is a powerful thing.
It is a powerful thing.
So that was the best, if not advice, gift you've ever received. But what's the worst advice you've ever given?
Well, I'm sure I've given a lot of terrible advice, but I'm not sure what it would be. Generally speaking, I've known what good advice is. The fellow Tom Murphy, 40 years ago, said to me one day, he said, never forget, Warren, you can tell a guy to go to hell tomorrow. You don't give up the right. So just, keep your mouth shut today and see if you feel the same way tomorrow. That's terrific advice. I don't know how many problems that saved me. You haven't lost it. You don't have to stay up all night worrying about the fact you didn't tell it to him, because you can always tell it to him tomorrow.